did not know I was going to have a stroke and be on my deathbed. What are you leading me to?
In your mind, was that basically walking into heaven?
Learning how to draw a circle. I was a newborn child.
What a great reminder to look at your kids a little bit longer. Welcome to the Alex Perry on Fire podcast. And today we have a guest who actually built the podcast. Yes, it's exciting. The designer, Wren Homesy. But I want to go into something different. And as we were walking a home that you're designing for me, we started talking. And instead of talking about what you were doing in the home, we actually had a deeper conversation. And it was a kind of a life-changing moment in your life, but I was so intrigued by it. And I said, I want to know more. And I thought the audience of this podcast might want to know more. So it's kind of going straight into it, but I'd love for you to share kind of what that life-changing moment was for you.
I had a stroke, a venous hemorrhage, if you will, in May of 22, after having my daughter, Benny. It was about 3 days after. I thought I had a very bad headache after having her. And I kept telling the doctors that I had a headache, and they gave me an epidural, a epidural patch, thinking that was going to cure it. They thought it was my epidural was leaking. And it didn't help it. So I went home and I was feeding my daughter, and I started getting like a really bad dizzy headache. And I walked down the stairs with my daughter and kind of like very discombobulated. Went down the stairs, saw my nanny, and I was like, you have to take the baby. Like, something's wrong with me. I ended up laying on the couch, and I called Julia, who works with the doctor, and said I and basically started losing my speech. She then called her doctor. He called me, and I then couldn't speak. And he said, you need to call the ambulance right away. My husband, Benji, and my son were out getting me a breast pump. So he wasn't there to help me. While I was on the phone with him, I guess I don't remember, but from what I've heard, he stayed on the phone with me until the ambulance came. And from then on, I just had been through a lot of ups and downs from that stroke, and in a lot of repair mode, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I'm sure. And again, where I kind of was so intrigued by it is we worked together. I'd kind of known, but we never kind of talked about it. And there was just a moment where we just had an understanding that it was something deeper that I wanted to learn from you, to kind of see how you were living your life now. You know, you live in this space, and it was your second child, and kind of everything going forward and moving kind of, I don't want to say how it should, but rather easily. And then this life-changing event happens.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's funny. You see me one day, I'm on a job, and then almost a year later, you see me, who I am and back on the job. But between all that, there is so much that has gone on. And there's so much behind this body that people don't understand has happened. And it's very deep. It's things that I don't share ever, really. This is actually the first time I've ever really shared it, other than my husband and maybe a close friend or family. There's things that are so deep that people may not understand. I was in the hospital for a very long time. I mean, I remember seeing, the last thing I remember is seeing my son run in the door when I was going into the ambulance, and that was it. And I now look at that moment as a big encouragement of how my life is now. It's like, that's how I'm going to live my life, is knowing that he is, that face right there is why I live my life today. I saw him standing there. I think he was 2 years old, in his orange hat. And he just looked at me as I was seizing and hemorrhaging. And I was getting in the ambulance and they were wheeling me off. And that's the last thing I saw. I'm going to live my life the fullest I can with no regrets. I don't give a shit what people think. I am happy.
You've told us that really, really what helped you was the support system along the way.
Well, I was so blessed to have the support system that I have. Benji, when I was in the hospital, had created a spreadsheet with all my friends' names on them and had somebody stand by my side every 24 hours of the day, no matter what, to make sure nobody was away from my side the whole time. All the weeks and months that all the weeks that I was in the hospital or in ICU. And every time I woke up, there was a new person next to me. Sometimes I didn't know who they were, but they were one of my friends. And then, when I would, they would bring photos for me to remember parties or things, just to kind of re-jog my brain. And then when I was home, they were constantly checking on me. They were bringing us food. And the amount of flowers, I remember begging the nurses to get rid of the flowers because I couldn't have them in my room anymore or stand to look at them. I was trying to throw them out the window that apparently you can't break. I've tried to run out it. But then this, the support, my kids were just taken care of left and right. And I can't thank them enough. So that is just also such a blessing for me. But for people that don't have that in their lives, I think the best thing for you to do is reach your hand out to somebody, just anybody that you see around you, and just start talking. You never know who is next to you that could become a friend. You never know who's next to you that is hurting inside that you can just have a conversation with. And that may lead you somewhere. Everybody has something to talk about. I find now that I have had this stroke that it's so much easier for me to go out and just speak to people. And I wish I would have done that before because I would have had way more friends. But it's okay to do that. It's okay to talk to one person out there.
Sure. And I even think us across from each other represents that because it's always been business until finally I asked a question. And I was like, oh, I want to know more. I want to, I want to know more about your story.
Yeah.
And I want to know why you have this mentality now. And so, yeah, that's a great example. I get it. You've been pretty dismissive about a couple things you've said, but one of them you just said was throwing flowers out of a glass window and almost trying to run through it. And you talked about being chained to a bed. Because I've seen it in others, like the low of the low, right? That sounds like the low of the low. Was that present? And when there is no light, if there seems to be no light, how do you kind of move towards any?
Let me back up. Can you preface that a little bit more? It doesn't register in my brain.
Talking about, as you said, throwing flowers out a window represents something. Mm-hmm. And even as you said, trying to break through that window and referencing having been chained to a bed for one reason or another.
Yeah. Which
obviously please share. But like, when I hear that, to me, that represents the bottom.
Well, I had thought that I had killed my children and that's why I was in the hospital. I had saw the news I guess, before and while I was in the hospital. And I thought that I was on the news and I was in there and I'd killed my 3 children. And I don't have 3 children, but, and they had tied me down to the bed, and I had ended up biting, I'd ended up biting my way through my straps of my hands. And then I guess I wiggled my feet out or maybe bit those out too. I have no idea. But the nurses did say I was strong as hell. And then I started running down the hall, and that's when the cops chased me. And then I started screaming so hard. And then I started kicking the nurses, about 8 of them. One of them became so black and blue here that she had that black and blue bruise on her until the time that I was released from the hospital. I tried throwing the flowers out. I tried escaping the window. I've also, the remote that you use in the hospital beds, I thought it was a phone. So I kept trying to call people on the phone. I kept calling the nurses like, I need something, My mom thought that was hilarious because I kept doing it. I mean, the amount of things that I had done within those several weeks are beyond. I apparently had children and I never knew I did. I thought my husband's name was January. I had no idea why I was there. And then one day, my husband decided to walk me out. Benji decided to walk me out to a flower garden that we had out there. And he was like, I just wanted you to sit you down and tell you why you're in the hospital. And I was like, talking about, he's like, you ended up having a stroke from the baby. And I was like, what baby? I had to basically retell me everything. And so it kind of all started becoming a little bit more defining. And I just kind of somewhat started to understand a few things, I guess, in a way. But then that night, it was called sundowning. And that's when things just went haywire. And I would just go crazy. And we always had to make sure somebody was next to me during all that.
Did you know when Benji took you out there, did you know that he was your husband?
At that time, I think I started to know that Benji was my husband. Yeah, I believe.
And you just made trust in the process that everything that people were telling you and showing you was you.
Yeah, you tried to, I think you started to build a little bit of trust.
And piece together certain things that made more sense. And
yeah, slowly.
So it's really just brain injury.
It's a brain injury.
And that's what the mental side of that, you just so confused and not knowing.
Right.
Anything.
Whenever, I remember the first time I tried to walk and it was like, couldn't walk. And then it was like, now I can maybe take a step.
The fear from, did you not know if you'd walk again? Did you not know if you could train your brain again?
At that point, I was on so many medications that it was like, you just move. Yeah, you kind of live your life. You're like, whatever. Just give me more medicine. I don't feel good. But what happened after, that part of it, I think Benji was so worried, had more fear of it all, was just so in so much pain. I didn't have pain. I wasn't worried then. When I was worried was after. And that's when things really started to come down on me, when I had the struggles, pain, the worry, when I was in front of the mirror, just screaming for life. God, just be with me, help me. I've got to get through this. So one thing that I got put on anxiety. Like, this is one thing that I was just begging for help. I was going through all these therapists, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to put you on depression medicine. I'm like, I'm not fucking depressed. I'm not depressed. I have anxiety. I'm not depressed. Like, I'm happy. Like, I just feel like, and it's just, that's what was getting me so crazy. And it made me want to beat the shit out of somebody. And so that also got me all the time. And it was just so like those things, that was the really hard part of my life. And as like the medications came, and I just kind of, the medications helped me to get better. And then you can kind of start, because you can see a part of life, whenever you're kind of feeling when you're taking, and I'm just on my seizure medication. And then I'm on a little bit of like, anxiety medication, just a really low dose. But that anxiety medication helps me to see that I can be better. And then I'll get off of it, but I know that I can be better. And so that's what I've learned the idea of the medication is. I had to be begged to be put on it. I did not want to do it. But now I see why.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Benji, and at the end of this, was he just emotionally spent? I mean, did he have, or is he just?
I saw Benji in tears. I mean, this was very hard for him. Very hard work. Very hard emotionally. I mean, the kids. Imagine trying to take care of 2 kids, a massive company, his family. He had nannies left and right. I mean, I can't.
Has he taken space for himself now to kind of recharge?
Yeah.
Because I imagine that, at that time it's fight or flight, and you've got everything, but there becomes a point where too, it's like, okay, enough. I'm emotionally drained, and I need to recharge.
Yeah, he's done. I also knew that through this, I had to be better for him. I've had to get better for him. Yeah.
Did you think that the world had pained you? Like, were you angry? Did you think this was there an element of like, why me?
No. I knew that. I had a reason that had happened to me. Before this happened, I always had a major fear of dying. And I would always tell my mom, I'm so scared of dying. My mom said that when I was a little girl, that I would cry in my bed with my cat and just cry like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And I'd always said that growing up. And then I've even told Benji how afraid I was. Whatever reason. And then I feel like I was put in this situation. Tell me something. And I'm okay now.
Yeah, maybe that, who knows, that constant angst of, am I going to die? Am I going to die? Builds this stress. I mean, who knows? Did they figure out what your brain aneurysm came from? Do they even know?
I have there's a couple types of blood, I am the worst. I could never be a doctor. Let's just say that. And you could tell me 25,000 things. People will repeat it to me and I still don't know what it is or what I had. But there's a couple of different types of blood, and I have one of them. One of the I have like the most
rare blood.
Rare blood. Yeah. And anyway, so I was put on a blood thinner during my pregnancies, and they believe or something there. It's very not really.
I don't know.
Yeah. And it's somehow with a blood thinner, and that's probably what.
And the question now is, what's your relationship with death after this?
I'm okay. Yeah. I mean, do I want to go? No, I want to like hang out with my children and have some martinis, but
there's an element of peace, knowing what that could look like. And there's not
it's insane how different it is now.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you think that's because now you're living much more within your purpose?
Yes, too. Yeah.
And that if it all went away, you'd be like, well, no, I love my children as much as I could. I loved my friends, my husband. I was living this life that kind of aligned with who I am.
Yes. And then now I look at it like when I am dying or whatever on my deathbed, I know that I have lived exactly how I wanted to live. I have been faithful and happy, and I've done everything I could do in life that I wanted to do, and it like encouraged people and just surrounded love. Like I'm gonna like show, like I'm gonna spread who I am. I'm gonna give that gift of who I am. I'm not just gonna hide behind closed doors.
There's times in our life where something big, monumentous happens to us or someone we know and love, and it changes the way we see the world or the way we are going to act. I almost think in a good way, right? Like it's this eye-opening event. And you would mention, like, I was Wren Homesy before the brain aneurysm, and I'm Wren Homesy now. And what is it when I say this is the new Wren Homesy that really you say this represents me? This is me.
I am somebody that's beyond loving, beyond respectful, faithful, encouraging, and just somebody that will be there if you need me kind of person, if that makes sense. Like I don't give a shit about shit.
But I understand it. I didn't go through a near-death experience. And again, it's kind of why the podcast even got started. You almost said it's like living a life, I don't want to say surface level, but it's just kind of in line with what expectations are and how you see yourself. Something can happen and you're like, wait, have I been? You ask that question like, is this true to me? If I were to leave this earth today, did I show love to the people I cared about? Was I my truest self? Was I living that life? And I think for me, it was, okay, if I am, there's a little bit of peace, right, with it. Now, I don't have a family, so that's harder. But the idea that if you're not, it's like, okay, now I have the choice because I've seen it. And I guess you've said it, but like that experience changed how you saw the world.
Definitely. If I go back, when you presented this idea of the podcast, that moment, I actually randomly opened up my nightstand drawers. Whoever goes into their nightstand drawers, I'm pretty sure you're going to find the things that like are your closest possessions. And I opened up my folder or my journal that I had been writing in whenever I first came out of the hospital. And remind you, I didn't know how to write or read. I didn't know who my husband's name was. I didn't know my children's name. I had to learn how to do everything on my own. Again, I was a new child for a long time. I had to learn everything. And but I had written some journal entries. And one of my entry was a memory that I had when I was in the hospital. And also, I was tied to a bed for a long time because I tried to escape the hospital. I had police chasing me. I had a lot of things happen in the hospital. And all the journal entries I went through, I skipped through, but there was one that really got me. And it was a remembrance of a time of death. And that is really the reason why I am here today and as happy as I am and as encouraged as I am to do whatever I can do to be the person I am is this journal entry. And it talks about how I was dying at noon, and that's whenever I had called the doctor, I called the doctor, and that was at noon, and I was hemorrhaging. And then
there aren't a lot of people who can say they quote unquote saw the light at the end of the tunnel or had this death to revival situation. Not that they can talk about, obviously. I think a lot of people want to know in detail what that looks like or what you saw at that moment, if you don't mind sharing.
What I saw what I was laying in a bed and I was lifted in a sky. Not in the sky. I was lifted in the hospital room, and I could see down, and Benji was sitting in a chair in the hospital room, and he was signing the papers sitting next to the nurse of what looked like my death certificate. And the nurse leaned over to him as he was signing and said 12 p.m. was the time of death, and the clock said 12. And he was crying, and then he stood up and he reached up and started kissing my feet, and crying at the same time. And then there was a flash of me rolling by behind a chair where Benji's mother was sitting, and she was wearing a blue button-up shirt. It was like sitting this way, and I was going that way. And she's just looking at me like hysterical crying. And then when I saw her and told her this story, and she was like, that's so crazy. I was wearing that. She has a specific blue button-up shirt. I was wearing that blue button-up shirt. And that day, I was in ICU. I was comatose. I couldn't see anybody. And so those feelings, so it's just so powerful, because when I remembered that story, something really felt overwhelming to me. And that's why I dug deep into, what time did I call Julia's doctor? Or what time did I call Julia? What time did I call Julia's doctor? And I saw that it was 12 o'clock. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. And I just kind of put all this together. And it's like this feeling went over me, I don't know, just eerie, weird feeling went over me. And I'm just like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Like, I'm not like, oh my God, but it's like just cool, because I know something was really interesting about that.
And maybe was there a feeling like of peace, of quietness or something when, if you had stayed in that spot?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, at that moment when I was leaving in the gurney and I saw Enzo, mind you, I didn't know or feel anything after that. It's just from that moment on, I know that I was fine. And I feel like at that moment could have just been a very easy spot, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Doesn't need to, but if it does.
In your mind, was that basically walking into heaven?
I don't know. There was another moment when I was in the hospital, and I was laying in bed, and I was biting through my straps again, because I was heading into what looked like a bunch of red sand. And there was somebody that opened or was standing by the red sand, and they were wearing like a red, which looked like those hospital bandanas. This could all be an illusion, right? From just all the medication I'm on. So, but this is the feelings that I'm feeling that I feel like have really changed who I am too, because of just everything that I saw and how impactful it was. But this red sand was there, and it was like blowing hard, but it was beautiful red sand. Like, it wasn't like dark and devilly. It was just beautiful, and it was just red sand, just blowing really hard. And I'm like, where am I going now? What are you leading me to? So there's illusions and there's things, and I don't know if I would say, was I lifted up there for a heaven? It was just a good feeling, and I had no worries.
I love that. And when you come out of that what may have been death to resurrecting, was there a moment of light and clarity after that? Or was it then still this struggle where you just said you were chained to a bed? I mean, you see this, in movies or other places, and then all of a sudden it's, this moment of bliss. But is that true? Or is that then where the work, you said you had to learn how to kind of transition?
It didn't really, there's a lot of work put behind it. I mean, I would wake up every day and cry and look at the mirror and hope that I can survive looking at my children because they are watching me cry all the time because of all the anxiety I have. And then I'm going from an anxiety into a seizure and, not being able to drive because then I get upset and then I would get upset and then I'd have a seizure. And it's like this repetitive thing that I would have. And, and it's like, then I have work and it's, trying to work on top of all of this and not get a seizure. And this like piled on emotions and struggle. But what I did know was that the work that I was putting into it was going to be okay because I knew that I had good faith and that I was strong and I had the ability to do it. And I had the people surrounding me that kept me positive and good and happy. And I was doing great. I knew I was doing great, but it was definitely a struggle.
You know where you've been and how far it's taken you to get there, and really being arguably at the bottom of the bottom, teaching yourself like a newborn. And you wanted to, obviously, well, I don't want to speak for you as I am, but like there is a confidence that you, as you sit across the table from me and answer questions and speak eloquently and look the part. But what's the internal fight to see and make sure that, you're putting off this aura, or you're, at a level of speaking or doing that you want to be at?
Took a lot of practice. A lot. I so often, I remember being at YPO events and I've walked out crying because I was having panic attacks because being in large groups. I have felt so much pain for people and children and people that have anxiety being around large groups now because I understand it. So I have stopped going to major groups at some times in my life. I have stopped, when I was coming into meetings with Hudson, I was having panic attacks before because just to go in groups with your meeting was so hard for me. When I never used to feel like that, but the anxiety would just debilitate my body. It's just like I had to really, medication helps. And I don't care who the fuck you think you are, but it helps. And it has gotten me to stop my seizures, thank God. But that has helped, but exercise has really helped me. It has, if I go every day and I come home in the morning, it has completely changed the way I think. It has like put my mindset in a really good place every day. So that has gotten me so much better. But I've also started getting more confidence. Was like listening to some confidence podcasts has helped me. Like just walking in here today, I was listening to a Mel's confidence podcast because just to get in and give me this boost, just having somebody else tell you that it's okay to carry the confidence, and it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to say whatever the hell you want. Like you are who you are. Who cares?
100%. And it's almost like the vulnerable you shared with us. You're like, hey, it may take me some time to answer some questions. And it doesn't. But the idea that you're saying, give me this space.
Yeah.
Which of course we do anyways. But the point is, the idea is we're not perfect, right? And it doesn't have to be always I'm on top of my game, but like, just give me time, or give me a little bit of room, and be understanding that I'm working on it, right? And I think anyone that loves and appreciates you gives you that, right? That's my opinion.
Right.
You don't know what someone's going through, right? You're like, you see me right now, but you have no clue what the last year, 2 years has been. And I find something that's so powerful about this podcast is that it gives you a little bit of the ability to be like, I am not just what you see, right? Like
Yes.
I am not that. And as you said, the world goes on, right? The day you had your seizure or brain aneurysm, right? It'd be the best way to
Yeah.
describe it.
Yes. Yeah.
Even like I remember hearing it, not completely understanding it, not getting the severity of it. But at the same time, like as someone on the other side, it's like we have to live our lives, right? And then yet you're in the fight of your life. You don't see that. And it's hard because like hearing this story and even hearing now, I have a more of appreciation for what you do for me on the backside when I'm like, hey, Ren, I need this tile and I need it now and I need it in a week and it's just it's a kind of that surface level of the obvious, but what's going in the backside of your head to say, okay, I've got to figure this out, this out, this out. Plus I've got my kids. Plus I'm making sure I'm not stressed out enough where this could come back again. And how does that factor into your daily life now that you're, you look extremely well put together.
Thanks.
You're speaking as good as I think anyone.
Yeah,
for
you're good.
Learning how to speak,
Yeah.
You're doing just fine. But does that creep into your head, or what is the practice on a daily? Obviously, work is so much a part of your life and what you represent. This podcast is incredible, but this does not showcase your abilities. They're as good as it gets. But what goes into that thought process, that mindset of work now?
Well, one thing I have learned is that work is definitely important, but what's the most important part of your lives is the people you're surrounding, your family. And I have also learned that my work specifically, I have learned what clients to take on and who not to take on. Basically, what's going to manage my time wisely. What makes me happy, and surrounding myself with positive people. And like you, for instance, you guys are a fabulous company. And that's why I enjoy working with you. So I'm going to continue to work with you. And, the other people that I work with, I will make sure that that's where I'm going to use my time wisely. Sorry, there was another part of it.
No, and I guess also the family aspect of it, right? So, what's the stress like, and is there a stress with this could come back, or I've got to manage this so that I can be the best version of myself, kids, husband, and for yourself,
Yeah. Yes. So part of managing my day-to-day life now is, and managing the work life is, not taking on as much for, at one point when I was going through my stroke, I had probably 6 or 7 projects at that time. And when I woke up and so Benji finally gave me back my phone because I wasn't allowed to have my phone because I was sending random text messages to people of like heads and stuff. No idea. But like he took away my phone, and when I was finally able to get it back and realize like, oh, do I have a job? Like, what's that? Like, and I realized, and I had to learn how to write emails and stuff again. But as time went on, I was like, whoa, and I had to kind of pick up work again and figure out how to do it, which was a blessing because it helped my brain. So I wanted to continue to work, but it was like I had to figure out how to manage that. And it was too much work. It's too much of a workload. And then getting my kids. And I said, why did I ever put so much work on me? Like, why would I do that to myself? I don't need 7 jobs at once. I don't need to do that to my life, especially at my age with children.
And now that you feel it, how does time feel to you though? I mean, I feel like at this point now, time, the thought of time and how much time you have is probably a different mentality.
Yes. First of all, time goes really fast. I mean, I did not know that at 7 years old, I was going to have a stroke and be on my deathbed. So, I mean, you have to cherish every fucking moment you have. I mean, every fucking moment you have.
Yeah.
You don't know the very second you walk out a door, that's going to be that last second you have.
How do you remind yourself of that? Because I feel like there's so many times we can, have it.
You follow.
Yeah, like we almost like, oh, that car could have killed me, or 1 second later, or whatever it may have been. And it's like, and we just charge back into our lives.
Unfortunately, I don't enough. But what I do is make sure that I spend my time wisely by caring about the people around me and spending it with people I love. And like I said, picking the jobs I want to pick.
Yeah, it resonates so hard. I think that it's just that time spent well is so important, because we have to live our lives like anything could happen. It can't happen. At the same time, we still have these I don't want to say responsibilities, but the way we live our life.
Yeah.
So it's that balance, but doing it with that mindfulness of like, this could be taken away at any moment. So just enjoy, as I say, and I write all the time, enjoy the ride.
Enjoy it.
The ride.
Yes. I try to, my goal now is making sure I have self, time and working out, and then spending my time with my children. After seeing Enzo's face that day, I'm going to damn well spend time with my kids.
Yeah, it's kind of finding this healthy balance / routine where you're like, look, I like routine. I want something to go, I enjoy work. I enjoy time with my kids. You just said I enjoy working out, but in a way where one is not overtaking the other. I guess my interest would be if you forget how to write emails, how to read, does it all come back so quickly? I mean, you're going to, today, even sooner than later, you were still a great designer. Like, is that muscle memory? Is that
oh my gosh,
brain
it was so
function?
Hard. God, it was a lot of work. I remember I was in rehab at Baylor for several months, and I was learning how to write an email. I was building Legos, trying to figure out how to put it all back together. I was, learning how to, draw a circle. I was learning I was a newborn child. And so you have to imagine I was trying to basically go to school in 6 months and become an adult again. And but what encouraged me the most is the surrounding people around me. I made friends of people that were completely debilitated. And it was such an incredible experience. There's no words that can explain the experience I went through in rehab. And that encouragement and the people around me and just watching what you go through in a situation like that is rewarding too, like in so many ways. But the skill building and those things, I was like, am I ever going to be able to design again? I don't know. But it did. I guess your brain somehow goes back. Who knows? I don't know. God created something really fucking weird. I don't know.
Yeah, and we were kind of, even before we got on the show, we were joking, but saying like the little things we forget to just appreciate on the daily. We were talking about the weather, or you said driving. It's like you get this, it was an awful experience, something that you probably not wish anyone to go through, but on this backside, you have this incredible gratitude for almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess so, like, has it changed you spiritually? Has it changed the way, I mean, I know it's the way you look at your kids and life, but like, can you kind of, I don't know if it's even explainable, but like, you kind of said you saw the light, and then afterwards.
Yeah, it's changed me. Fuck, when I say fuck shit.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, for sure.
Yes, it has. Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
And what would you share, like, with me and the audience? It's just the most profound thing of saying.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Not only that, after I came out of the hospital, and I don't know, I see 1111 almost every day. Weird. I would screenshot my phone and send it to my husband and my mom. I'm like, y'all, I don't know, this is weird, but I do. And it's not so much anymore right now, but it kind of comes sporadically. The strangest things happen all the time. And I know the angels are there. They're constantly surrounding me, and I live just so strong and so happy. And it's
I
great.
love that. I love that. And I can relate to that. I actually have 1111 tattooed on me.
Yay! Yeah.
And it's
Brother,
just,
sister.
I love that. And it's just the idea that a higher level of consciousness and
Totally.
awareness, and that it's all kind of happening.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but in that Project 369, which is about that book right there, that's about manifesting, 1111 is in there, all these numbers, and it's like, it's kind of this belief that like everything happens for a reason, and if we're aware of it or we're watching for it, the world, as you just said, is an incredible place.
You're
Like,
you're exactly right.
an incredible place, and then you see it as being helpful instead of hurtful, and that you're sitting in this chair is just incredible gratitude, and the time you get to spend with your kids and your husband and the people around you, and then what you saw with the rehab and everything is just mind-blowing because we take it for granted, and the littlest of things we could be in awe in, yet we go about our days every day kind of sometimes in monotony or forgetting this. And unfortunately, you don't want this life-changing event to happen, but when it does, for me, the way I see it is like, how do we take advantage of it? And that's why we're sitting, I think, across from each other, was because I didn't have a brain aneurysm, but I had something where I was like, what? Like, I wasn't upset about the life I was living. I'm still not. I love it, but I wasn't taking advantage of the things you're talking about, which is just being present. When you're young, you don't always have the ability to choose who you work with, right? Like when you were starting off, I'm sure you took tons of clients that were like, I need it. I want it.
Oh my God. Oh God. Yes.
And then you get to a point where you're like, all right, and I might even say I've earned the right to choose what clients I want to work with, because I have to kind of take on the other side of my life that is just as important. Right. That's my opinion. So, it's just exciting to hear. It gives me energy just listening to that. It is Alex Perry on Fire. So, I've kind of heard it, but if you were saying like, what's the one thing each day, that fires you up, or that you remember every day, maybe irregardless of the brain aneurysm, that you just tell yourself, this is what gets me going, what would you say that is?
It's the smiles on my family's face and the friends and the courage around me.
And I could obviously see you take in that moment. Do you feel that from all this, you like have a deeper sense of leaning into this emotion and just kind of like appreciating how deep that feels to you now?
Yes.
And it's just incredible, right? Like just to feel deeper because of what it means more to you.
Yeah.
And it's in the heart. Like it's so authentic, it doesn't even need to be said.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
you can kind of look and feel and I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me even want to get to that point of just feeling more.
Yeah. It's like when you eat an Oreo cookie and you got that outside and then it's good. And then you get the center and it's really good, but you just want more and more and more and more.
It's powerful. You can feel it. I love it. And we do give to a charity of choice for every guest that's on the show. So we'd want to let what charity you'd want us to donate on your behalf.
Yes, Dec My Room. It's a charity where you decorate children's hospital rooms that are terminally ill. It's a fabulous charity, so I appreciate that.
Oh, love that.
Yes.
Love that. Well, incredible story. I just feel like just from sitting across from you, I was reminding myself even before I came on the show today, was just slow down. Like I woke up and I kind of was like in this stressful mindset of get to emails, get to work. And I had to even remind myself, it's like, why? Like they'll be there.
Well,
they will be there. But where can I sit and enjoy almost what you just said, relationships, my time, just little things. And I think from this show, it's just such perfect timing, whether it be manifesting or just where we are in our lives, but like what a great reminder to the audience to like look at your kids a little bit longer after you listen to the show, or just sit and give yourself time and space and compassion for where you are, or just all the things that you had mentioned that we kind of take for granted. It's a healthy reminder. So I can't thank you enough for sharing that with the audience.
That is a great reminder.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Alex Perry on Fire. It means so much to me and the wonderful team that makes this all possible. I'm now passing the flame to you. Please follow, like, and subscribe so you can always stay up to date. Thanks again, and stay fired up.